You know what's funny is I sing a lot of things, and I was with Brown, my friend Brown, yesterday, and I sang an answer to her, and she said to me, she said, "It's funny how you do that." She said, "Because when I fight with my daughter, I found that if I sing her my needs, that instead of being stroppy and not doing what she says, she'll be like, 'All right, mummy, I'll do that,' and and listens to her instead of going, 'Whatever, mom,' and walks away." I thought that's so funny. And Brown goes, "So now when we're having a heated moment, I'll just sing my needs to her and."
See, there was a reason for musicals. Totally. Well, it's good to be laughing because this class is all about joy. It's actually about effort. But it's about the joy in effort. And so, when something is really, really joyful, it's not effort the way we think of effort, right? Mm-hmm. So we'll get into that. Mm-hmm. Okay, Zoe. Whatever language you want.
Sorry, I'm having technical difficulties.
I know it's tricky sometimes. Crisscross? Thumbs on pinkies?
That's right.
Index on middle.
Sashi Buki Jukshin Metotram Rirad Lingshin Yende Gempadi Sange Shingdu Mikte Uargi Jokun Namdak Shingla Chupar Shok Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami Sange Chudan Soki Choknamla Jamju Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Junyan Gimpe Sunamki Drola Penchir Sange Drupar Shok Sange Shudan Soki Choknamla Jamju Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Junyan Gimpe Sunamki Drola Penchir Sange Drupar Shok Sange Chudan Soki Choknamla Janju Bardu Dakni Kyapsuchi Daki Junyan Gimpe Sunamki Drola Penchir Sange Drupar Shok.
So you have survived the chapters on patience. And we're moving on to the, actually, by the way, Geshe-la says that normally it takes 1.5 years straight of study to go over that particular part that we covered in 3 classes. Wow. So, in case you were wondering why things were stirred up, and, so now it's time to move on to the next one. So, repeat after me. Sundru, ki, parchen. Sundru is effort, ki means of, and parchen is the same as paramita in Sanskrit, which means perfection. So this is the perfection of effort, and it's the 4th of the 6 perfections. So we're going to do it in the same method, but a little bit of commentary first. The opening lines of this chapter, so we're on to the chapter in the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life on the 4th perfection. So it's not necessarily the 4th chapter. I'll have to go back to the notes to see which chapter it is actually. But the opening lines opens with Tibetan that says, okay, repeat after me. Lung, Mei, Yoa, Mei. Lung, all you yogis in the room have heard about lung before. It means wind. We talk about it as a wind condition. Like, we've even turned it into a verb. Like I'm very lungy today means that I'm feeling really, it's either usually very anxious or very lethargic. Like, it could be either or. And it's usually the result of too much or too little sleep, or too much or too little food, or the wrong kind, right? So it's something that so lung in Tibetan, it's the same word, whether we're talking about wind or we're talking about like an oral transmission, which is, the words come from the speaker's mouth to your ears on wind, right? And actually the word itself is the energy that's expressed is a type of subtle wind. So that's all lung. So it can mean like the physical wind, when we have the fans going in the summer, it can mean like that, or it can mean an inner, almost a psychic or a spiritual energy. Okay. In Chinese, they call it qi, like in qigong. Japanese, they call it ki. And it's interesting because the Japanese word ki also, it means energy, but ki also means mind, like thought. So thought rides on winds, right, in the Tibetan vernacular. So interesting. It's the energy that runs through your fundamental spiritual body. And so lung mei is the negative, so it means without wind. Yoa means for something to flicker. You know how a candle is flickering in the wind? Or if you try to practice kapalabhati with a candle, it kind of flickers. So that's the yoa, and mei is that doesn't flicker. So that actually translates to without wind, nothing flickers. That's the opening line of this chapter, okay? So without wind, nothing flickers. Sounds kind of logical, even just at a gross level. But what it means, what both Master Shantideva and Gyaltsab Je in the commentary explains, is that what he means is that by saying that without wind, nothing flickers, without effort, you will never do any merit, is what the unpacking of that is. But what's really interesting is those literal words. Locked in those literal words is a really high secret teaching, which I actually can't explain to you in this class because it's an open class. But suffice it to say, it is actually referring to the creation of your enlightenment, of your enlightened angel body, your enlightened angel mind, and your enlightened angel physical body, and that those are not possible without, those are the results of a method that is explained in those words, that without it, you wouldn't get the enlightened body. So the subtext, or the unspoken, the twilight, the hidden message there is that without some kind of effort, you can't achieve your enlightened body. So it's actually saying how important this particular perfection, they're all important, don't get me wrong, but how extraordinarily important this particular one is. It's also interesting because it's kind of right in the middle, right, of the three that came before and then the two that come after it. And it is pivotal. You need joyful effort to be able to do the first three, to be able to sustain the first three, right, of your giving, your kindness, and your patience. And you need it definitely to keep you focused, concentration, and on your cushion for the higher meditation, right? So it's interesting how it is. It's the one perfection that affects both. Here's something else that's really, really interesting. I'm getting ahead of myself, actually. Let's review the 6 perfections first. So I just kind of quickly said it, but the first one was giving, and that can be material giving, right? Protection from fear, or giving of the Dharma. And then sometimes they say there's a 4th one, that's love. But in the classic ones, they only give 3, and love is assumed to be imbued in all of it. Sometimes that first perfection is translated as generosity, and Geshe-la doesn't really like, giving is definitely including generosity, but protection from fear isn't really generosity, but it is a giving. So that's what he makes that distinction. Second perfection is kindness, ethics, morality, right? Living a moral life. Geshe-la likes to call it living an ethical life. And the third one, which we all know really well, which is the art of not getting angry. Yeah, and it really is an art some days, isn't it? So the 4th one is effort. And I mean, they do just translate it as the perfection of effort. You'll understand by the end of this class why Geshe loves to call it the perfection of joyous effort. And number 5, you can say, is meditation or concentration. And 6 is actually, I said earlier in class, concentration and meditation, they're the same thing. Number 6 is actually the perfection of wisdom. And the reason I mix that up is because you can only get to that wisdom, the ultimate directly perceiving of emptiness on your cushion, right? But that's the 6th one. So when Master Shantideva says, without wind, the fire never flickers, he's also talking about that central pivotal position. So it goes both ways. The effort applies to the first 3 and the last 2. And it's considered a key, one of the key perfections of the 6 perfections. So here's the other reason why it's kind of a pivotal one, and it has to do with the enlightened body and mind that I mentioned briefly. So for this, repeat these words. Say sunam, ki, sok.
So it's prayer.
Sounds like it, doesn't it? Yes, it is. Yeshe, ki, sok. This is, sunam ki sok means the collection of merit. And Yeshe Kitsok means the collection of wisdom, knowledge. Yeah. So, the whole collection of Tsok, by the way, is collection or a gathering. So the whole collection, the Sunam Kisok, that whole collective energy of all the good deeds that you do, is what produces your physical enlightened body. Your body of light, the body that doesn't suffer, the body that has no more blood, guts, organs, anything like that. It's the paintings, it's the kind of bodies that are depicted, and Geshe always says these are incorrect because they should be backlit, they should be glowing, like there should be a light. Like we can't actually, it's very difficult to paint or draw light, without drawing lines or something. Whereas if you actually had it backlit, it would be glowing. And because there is this light body. And then Yeshe Kitsok is the complete ball of knowledge, all the wisdom that composes an enlightened Buddha's mind. It produces omniscience, which is the ability to see all things all at once, to know all things, all time and place. In fact, there is no linear or chronological time and place for an enlightened being. They understand the emptiness of everything in a single moment, right? That's the mind of a Buddha. So the collection of merit, that thing that we say, especially at the end, right? By the goodness of what I have just done, may all beings, right? Like the collection of merit and wisdom. That's what we're talking about. So the collection of merit produces your Buddha body, and the collection of knowledge or wisdom, as we say in those closing prayers, produces your Buddha mind. So it's interesting to know what the 6 perfections has to do with that. Because, we talked about how the 6 perfections is what perfects you so that you can be a bodhisattva that can get through all the levels, and that flops you over to Buddhahood. So obviously, this is a how-to manual for building your Buddha body and your Buddha mind, right? So how is it that these 6 perfections do exactly that? So the collection of goodness, the collection of merit, primarily has to do with the first 3, with the giving, the ethics, and the patience. Kind of makes sense, right? Yeah. So by the way, you get your enlightened body, your perfect Buddha form, and then a split second later you get your emanation bodies, because there's actually 2 bodies of a Buddha, right? There's 4 bodies of a Buddha if you think about it as the parts of a Buddha, but 2 parts are physical and 2 parts are mental. And so you get your perfection body, and then a split second later you get your emanation body, which is your ability to send out billions of copies in an instant wherever they're needed without any motivation, really. Like you don't think, okay, I'm going to go send Zoe an angel. It's like the minute Zoe needs help, boom, I'm there, right? As an enlightened being, that's how it works. So it's kind of cool. So the physical body is created. Those two physical bodies are created by the first three perfections, and then the mind of a Buddha, the omniscience of a Buddha, is, and the emptiness of the Buddha's mind, right, is created by the last two perfections, meditation or concentration and wisdom. So you need joyous effort to get both the first three and the last two. That's how it works in terms of being crucial. It's a crucial point. It's a nay. It's a crucial point in the whole mechanism there. So Geshe-la proposes that Master Shantideva is making a pun. With that phrase, without wind, the fire doesn't flicker. He means without the fourth perfection, you don't get any progress on the other five. That's one. And he's describing the process that is actually elucidated in the secret teachings, that fire never comes without wind. That's another way of describing it. It's kind of cool. Okay, we're going to do our first contemplation. Contemplation 1. What moves the flame? Once you have practiced patience, begin your practice of effort. For enlightenment lies in making these kinds of effort. Without a breeze, they never flicker. And just so, in the absence of effort, merit can never occur. So this phrase says, in the absence of effort, merit cannot occur. Merit, Gyaltsab Je says merit here, because sometimes we say merit instead of method, but here he says merit means both merit and wisdom, both the collection of goodness and the collection of knowledge. So he's explaining the things that create your Buddha body and your Buddha mind, and the central position that the fourth perfection has in the six perfections with that stanza. We're going to move right into the next one. Effort is joy. What is effort? It is joy in doing good. That's all. You can open your eyes. That's a very, very, very famous verse. One of the most famous lines from the entire Bodhisattva Charyavatara, which is the Sanskrit for a guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life. And it's obviously a rhetorical question, right? What is effort? It is joy in doing good. So, but think about that question. What is effort? Like if you were to be asked, not in the context of this class, what is effort? To me, what comes to mind is hard work, trying hard, drudgery, probably something I actually would rather not be doing. Those are the things that come up to my mind. Maybe not for you, but like if I just think of the word effort, some sort of strain, some sort of extraordinary, like you would rather not be doing it if you didn't have to, right? And that's totally wrong. That's totally not the way we should think of that word, especially when it's in the context, we're talking about the perfection of effort, right? What this is, what is effort? It is joy in doing good. It means that it's a totally different kind of effort from what we just normally identify as effort, right? This is talking about, and then just imagine this for a moment, if you thought of any effort at all as being spontaneously joyful, as something that you get off on. Like, yeah, bring it on, like effort. This is how I'm going to get my Buddha body and my Buddha mind. You know, it's like you get really, really excited. You get turned on by having time to go onto your yoga mat or to sit on your cushion. Can I meditate an hour? Can I meditate 2 hours, please? You know, it's like, or to go into retreat, like you're racing in there. You know, it's that type of enthusiasm and energy that we're trying to cultivate. We're trying to practice it so that it is spontaneous, right? So it does not mean just to work hard. This is kind of like a clue in all the perfections. It never means the obvious, right? Like giving is not about giving everything away and having nothing. Like it's not about that, right? The perfection of patience is not about just being able to wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. Like it's not. It's this effort does not just mean to work hard. It doesn't mean you don't have to work hard at times, but it doesn't just mean that. Because you could work hard, and people do, right? All their lives and never reach the perfection of effort. Like all the other perfections, it's an attitude. It's not how much you work, it's how much you enjoy the work you do. Master Chandrakirti says, you know it's the perfection of effort, it's joyous effort, when you get a bit of a thrill up your spine, either at the thought of doing what you're supposed to be doing or needing to do, or actually doing it. In the monastery, Geshe-la says that one of the things, I have a feeling it's a personal story, but I'm not sure. One of the things the young monks like to do is sneak off and go see an Indian movie, because the monastery's all in India now, right? There's some really great movies, like Bollywood movies and stuff, right? So, or these gothic romances or whatever. Anyway, so apparently, you know, there's always some young monk who's trying to like skip out and go see a movie and skip back before anybody knows, and they always know. And there's always a disciplinarian, and apparently there's 2 standard forms of punishment if you're caught. Well, first of all, for doing this, because you're inevitably caught, right? So one punishment is to have to stand up during a whole teaching and hold up an Indian movie poster for the entire duration of the class. Yeah. The other one is that you have to go to the front of the class to all the high lamas and monks and teachers and abbots and everybody and prostrate 100 times, probably 108. Well, there was one giku, because the giku who's the debate master is also the disciplinarian. There was one giku that Geshe-la was under the tutelage of, who said the prostrations was not a punishment. Because if you were a bodhisattva, that would be the thing you would want to do the most. Because you're getting merit every time you're prostrating with pure intent, right? Mm-hmm. And you could be making offerings the whole time you're doing this whole thing, and should be. And so he was saying, no, that's not a punishment. That's a reward. You don't give someone who's like skipped out and is breaking the rules that to do. Like then you're rewarding them for having done that, right? It's kind of an interesting story. Mm-hmm. But, you know, so there's the secret. We have to really look at ourselves, our own practice. You know, do we look at our meditation as a chore? Like, oh, God, I've got to carve out a half an hour. Or like, okay, she told me I could do 10 minutes. 10 minutes! I got to go eat breakfast. You know, it's like, how often? Or our 6-time book. How much are we looking at it as, right, I got to do my 6-time book. Or, oh, I didn't do it again. You know, it's like there's some sort of sense of obligation about it. And if we are feeling that, if we are feeling anything but joy, then we're not doing the perfection of joy. We're not practicing this perfection. So if you have to think about it, like should I or should I not write my entry in my book? Should I or should I not do my yoga or my do I have enough time for this? If you're having any thoughts like that, You're not practicing joy as a perfection, and we have to study this chapter more, is what Geshe-la says. we have to like get it until it's clear, because we're obviously unclear about it if we're not having that sense of running to our cushion, right? It's interesting because I've done a few 1 month or longer retreats now, and I do find that there's about a year's arc where, like, when you come out of it, you're like ready to come out, and then life is a little surreal for a little while, and then you get back into the whole worldly life. But then I find that around a year, I'm jonesing to get back into retreat, you know? So it's, and they always say that if you leave a treat wishing you could stay a little longer, that's a good sign. It's like they say about anything, like a good holiday, right? If you leave when you wish you could stay, then it's a good, good experience. Like there's the joy of that, right? So Master Shantideva and Geshe-la says the Giku at Sherri Monastery do not like the word obligation. That should be no part of your description of effort. You should be sneaking into your room to meditate more. You should get excited about doing good deeds. And Geshe-la says you should be a virtuoholic. All you want to do, like it's OCD on virtue, right? Like all you can think about is what your next virtue is going to be. And when you're in a practice, next should be like that. I love how Geshe-la describes this, because even just in the telling of it, I feel happy. Okay, next contemplation. This is contemplation 3 on what stops effort. Here I will explain the things that work against it. These are laziness, an attraction to what is bad, and the feeling of being discouraged, belittling yourself. So after identifying what joyous effort is, Master Shantideva thinks that we should know what can stop us from it. So he, first of all, clarifies it's not about just working hard, right? It's about getting turned on by your practice, by Dharma. So here's a list that he gives us of what could block us, what could stop us from that type of joy. The first one, and I know Farah at least has heard me say this word many, many times, it's lelo. Say lelo.
Lelo.
Lelo is, Geshe-la says it's one of the first words that all Americans who try to study Tibetan learn. Because it means laziness, and it sounds like laying low, right?
Low.
Yeah, just lay low. Keep your head down, right? So this is interesting, because we're going to kind of unpack laziness in this class. But lay low, which is the word I remember, I don't actually remember these other Tibetan words that we're going to get into very much, but it really is a lazing around that is a waste of time, and there's absolutely no virtue in it. It's just kind of being a sloth. It's basic, inactive lazing around. Excessively. So Geshe-la at this point wants to make a point, takes time to make a point here. Because, by this point, we're in ACI 11. There's a lot of really dedicated Dharma students in his classes, and they're definitely attempting to practice the perfection of effort. Sometimes to the point of pushing themselves beyond the joy, right? Not because it's an obligation, but because they're so focused on this. And Master Shantideva says this, all the lamas of the Lamrim say this, I've very clearly heard Geshe-la say this, that if you are making effort most of the time and you are genuinely needing to rest, needing to take a break, you must. And like if you stayed up all night preparing a reading or doing a reading and only got 1 hour of sleep because you were running around for your lama or preparing for class or something like that, as a virtuous activity, not just because you were procrastinating, right? But if you were doing bodhisattva activity, then it is bodhisattva activity to take care of yourself and take a rest, take a break, and to sleep well, to take care of this vehicle that you need to serve you so that you can serve others, right? So there's no problem. He's not talking about that. And in fact, it's highly recommended, especially if you are like what I call a type A Dharma person, then you actually need to almost schedule in rest time, downtime. And it is crucial and it's important. It's really, really important. The problem is that most of us actually aren't making effort that hard 7 days a week. Like, if we are making effort 6 days a week, take the 7th day off, right? But usually it's the other way around. So, but no, seriously, and I've seen it around me. Like, you have to take care of your spiritual real estate. We are more prone to kleshas if we're overworked and overtired and underrested and undernourished, right? So you do have to look after that. This is the opposite. This is talking about excessive lazing around. Okay, that's the first one. Second one, say chagan.
Chagan.
This is a obstacle or one of the reasons why we would be stopped from the joy in our effort. And this basically, in a nutshell, is useless activity. It's when we have an attraction for things that are neither beneficial nor wholesome, but they don't really help anybody in particular. It's basically limited or useless activity. Again, we're talking about wasting time. Now, it can be as extreme as the 10 non-virtues, like just being, getting off on doing that instead. But Geshe-la's saying, in a class of educated Buddhists, you're not going to get that type of excessive bad behavior, but it's the low-grade bad behavior, the useless activity that we have to watch out for. The next one, I don't actually have the Tibetan for it, but Geshe-la calls this low-level radiation. And if you do get a chance to listen to the audio, he gives, because he was in the diamond business, right, in the jewelry business, he gives this amazing explanation of how they make topaz, blue topaz, that it's actually not blue. And they radiate it, they irradiate it. So it's radiation that makes it blue. And it's very, very low levels. And out of clear conscience, he investigated whether this was harmful or not, especially if you're pregnant or something, right? So he actually tried to find out, and no one could give him a straight answer. The scientists, they couldn't quantifiably say this amount of exposure will harm you, but they also couldn't quantifiably say it was safe either. It's radiation, right? So basically what he says is the third type of obstacle is what he calls as activity that we undertake, which is like low-level radiation, where it's like watching one TV show is not going to kill your dharma, but watching it excessively and addictively over long periods of time is going to kill your brain cells, basically is what he's saying. If you expose yourself over a long period of time to the equivalent to low-level radiation, it will kill your joy. That's the third one. The fourth one, say Giluk.
Giluk.
Giluk is a very rare word, Geshe-la says. And it's a special feeling that says, I don't think I could ever do that. So we translate that as low self-esteem or self-doubt, being discouraged. This one's quite common, actually. This feeling that we're not quite good enough, or could never be, or, it's just this whole, it's different from guilt, but I think it's related to it. And it's just this feeling that we don't have enough confidence in our own abilities. Or maybe it's not even that we don't have enough confidence, we have too much beating up on ourselves about our own ability or inability to, I could never meditate for blah, blah, blah. Or, everyone around me understands all of these prayers in Tibetan, but to me it's just a bunch of blah, blah. No matter how many times I try to memorize it or whatever, like that. It's the, I can't do that. It's a part of the mind that's always giving up. That is an obstacle. Okay. So those were the 4 causes of what could stop us from joyous effort. Next contemplation about what causes laziness. What promotes the feeling of laziness is sloth, the sweet enjoyment of some pleasure, as well as a craving for time spent sleeping, all leading to a failure to feel a sense of disgust for the pain of the circle of life. So Master Shantideva is giving us, in that short phrase, 3 causes for laziness. 3 things that promote laziness. And remember, laziness is just the first form of the enemies to joyful effort. We had 4 of them, right? So, the first cause for laziness, say nyomle. Nyomle is an attraction to destructive worldly pleasures. So, it's related. It's the attraction to destructive worldly pleasures. So this would be the cause. It's related to that low-level radiation. Like the actual doing it is the low-level radiation, but being attracted to it is one of the causes of laziness. Okay. The second one, say ni, la, dambe, sipa. This one is an addiction to lazing around. So lay low is like that abject lazing around, right? These are the 3, what did I call it? The 3 causes. So the first one is the attraction to destructive worldly pleasures. This is the addiction to being lazy. Okay? And eating too much or eating the wrong things can promote this sort of incessant lethargy. There is something about that, right? I think around the holidays, when we're eating too much, but you can't stop it, and you keep eating. I have a friend who says just eating for sport, but then it goes beyond that, and you're actually feeling kind of disgusting, but you're still eating. It's like that feeling, we can all kind of resonate with that. I think that's sort of what he's talking about. The third one, say korwe, dugnao, la, mikyowa. This literally is a lack of joy, because you're Korwe, Dugnel, is actually samsara. Korwe is the cycle, right? And Dugnel is suffering. So the cycle of suffering. Laziness is a lack of joy and goodness. So it's the opposite to joyous effort, right? And it's interesting. Korwe Dugnel means suffering, and basically to be caught up in that. And when we think about samsara, I mean, we have so many ACI courses that say samsara is not a place, it's a state of mind. Well, we can take it one step further. Samsara is not outside of you. You are samsara. When you are suffering, you are samsara. You are cyclic existence. You are the condition of your suffering, basically. So, there's a lack of joy that can come with that can actually be a cause of suffering. So that's why it's a little bit of an uphill battle, because if we are samsara and our natural state is to be suffering and to be kind of attracted to things that cause our suffering, it seems like we've got a bit of an uphill battle, right? But Master Shantideva is going to kind of set us straight on her motivation about this, okay? This next one's a little gruesome. Next two. So we're going to kind of go a little down before we get the answers to how to pull ourselves out of this, okay? Contemplation 5. It's called Lambs to Slaughter. Haven't you even got eyes to see how those in the world with you have gone steadily to the slaughter? To sit here still and enjoy your sleep is just the same as the oxen waiting for the butcher. Geshe-la tells us about in Arizona, once when he was on retreat, he had to drive past a slaughterhouse. And on his way, there was like a half-mile of fencing, and there were all these cows just on the grass, or the hay, like just chewing, just, being happy little cows. And they're just kind of lazing around or not doing a whole lot, but they're basically in the holding area, right? But they're just there, and he says they're just too stupid to figure out what's going on. And what's going on is that there are cattle going in, but not coming out. So what's happening. But Master Shantideva is saying, we're no different. Like if we look around at the people who are alive right now, our contemporaries, they're dying. Every day, somebody dies, right? Oh my God, Christine Buchanan once sent me this stat thing. It's a computer thing that just cycles how many people are born and how many people die. I don't know how they get their stats, but it's like one of those world clocks, and I had to stop watching it because it's quite, and we're talking, how many billion people are on the planet right now, and it's pretty visceral, and you should ask her to send you that link one day if you want to just get a real fix on, because it's happening. But the thing is, we're like those stupid cows, right? Chewing on grass and drinking water and watching the other cows go in and not really figuring it out. He's saying, Master Shantideva is saying, wake up. He says, don't just sit there like a cow and watch your next TV show, okay? Like, do something. That's what this verse is about. This verse is about, don't be like that, because that's the only end there is, and, get on with it. Okay, the next contemplation is called I Still Have Time. Death is coming to take you, moving at incredible speed. In the time you have left, try to amass good karma. When the moment arrives, it's true you may give up your laziness, but what good can it do at a time so wrong? You haven't got to this just yet. The others just started, and yet another has half still left to do. Suddenly then does the Lord of Death make his arrival, and in your mind you can only cry, he kills me. You know, Geshe-la talks about a lot of the scriptures are preserved because of woodblock prints, and so the teachings were carved into wood. And he says there's many books in the canon that stop, like there's pages and pages, and it just ends, and the book hasn't actually finished. It's because the author has died, right? And the other thing this phrase is saying is that are you going to stop being lazy when you're actually on your deathbed? Like, is that the time that you're actually going to do something about it, right? It's not going to really help. The basic message is waking up to the reality of this type of existence, and that don't think there's all this time in the world, or don't think that at the last minute you're going to be able to do something about it. That we have to start now. We have to start, if you're not already doing a practice, you have to start tonight. And otherwise, you're just kidding yourself. Contemplation 7, what it feels like to die. I know, this is supposed to be the class on joy. Okay, we're getting there. What is it that you imagine you'd do at that moment, tormented by the memory of the wrongs you've done, and with the roar of the hell realms in your ears, bringing such terror that you cover your body in shit and reach the depths of insanity? So Master Shantideva is really nailing the point home, okay? And he's really basically saying that actually from that last verse 2, you know, are you going to wait to your deathbed? And are you really going to be able to do anything at that moment when you're in such abject terror? What he's also referring to is a practice that was popularly taught at the time called Poa. Now, Poa is a legitimate Buddhist practice. It's a high meditative practice. And if taught properly from an authentic teacher and you're trained, then you can attempt this on your deathbed, but you have to be very highly practiced and skilled to do this. One of Geshe-la's pet peeves, I think at the time in the United States, it was quite popular. There were teachers, gurus, like floating in on a weekend and charging for the weekend workshop, and by the end of the workshop, you were supposed to know how to do Poa. Like a page or $200 or whatever, and out the other end, you had your ticket for when you were on your deathbed. And he said it doesn't work like that. Like these teachers, he doesn't, you know, question whether they did or did not know the practice. Like if this was what they were practicing, then they were probably going to be able to do it. But it's not something you learn in a weekend workshop, and it's not something that you can think you know and pull out of your hat, because at the time of death, this is what Master Shantideva is saying. This is what happens. He says that there are 4 things in the process of death. This is what it feels like to die. A normal earthly death. First, he says, say Rangdik, Trembe, Dumba. All your wrong deeds are going to flash before your eyes. So you know how even in the Western stories they say your life flashes before your eyes? You know, Buddhist scripture actually concurs. But what they say is what's going to, as your life flashes before your eyes, the things that are going to be really in highlight bold print are all the things you did wrong. All the bad things. All the things that you regret. Right? They say this is not in this teaching, but I have to say, if you're ever helping anyone who's passing, it's really important to get them to let go of anything they regret. Like and that's why confession actually is really, really useful. Like I think that's a beautiful component of Catholicism, is this whole confession thing, because it's not good to die with regret. And I remember I had a very sweet friend in one of my first jobs out of university, before I got into the art world, was working for a major hotel and handling VIP security visits and stuff. And one of my friends was the big man in black, actually, with the thing in his ear. He was like the head of VIP security services. Big, strapping poster guy for, like, I felt safe when he was in the room. He died of colon cancer. And I remember someone getting in touch with me because we had gone separate ways or whatever. But as he was dying, he was reconnecting with all the people that mattered to him at one point. And so somehow somebody found me, and I managed to speak to him once on the phone and exchange a couple of emails. And I remember when I had my actual talk with him, and I was a practicing Geshe-la Buddhist by this point, I said to him, "Do you have any regrets?" He said, "Sherri, I don't." That's like we actually had some really great talks about what he had really, he was surrounded by people he loved, and he had actually, unbeknownst to me, had kind of a fledgling arts and crafts interest. He was creating these beautiful carvings, and he was telling me how much joy that had brought him. And anyways, the point being that he truly was preparing to go because he didn't have any regrets, and it just reminded me of that. But anyways, all the four things in the process of death. The first thing is that what's gonna flash before your eyes are all the wrong crap that you did, okay? And you're going to start feeling really, really bad about that. Secondly, say Nyalwe, Dra, Tupa. This means you're going to hear the roar, quite literally hear the roar of the hell realms, quite literally hear the roar of where you're going to be going if you reap the results of everything you're seeing flash before your eyes, basically. And so that is frightening. Third, say Trakpe, Mitsang, Lugu. This means that you literally crap yourself because of your fear. Like you literally, your pants, Yeah. And then 4, say Nupar, Gyur. This means that you go insane. Like basically what starts to happen is your mind, you start to hallucinate. Like what appears before you and you think is real isn't there to anyone else who's in the room, right? So the point is, this whole POA thing, Master Shanti was like, you think you're going to pull it off when? All you can think about is everything you regret. When you are already hearing the roar, the horrible people screaming in hell, right? Or the beings, being crushed and smashed and all those things. Remember from the realms of hell teaching that you're so paralyzed with fear that you're literally crapping your pants and you're hallucinating. In that moment, are you going to then go, whoa, 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 I'm going to do POA now, right? Like, it's a little, but don't get me wrong, there are practiced sages of the past who have successfully done this practice, but it doesn't come without a lot of training and practice and planting the right seeds for that practice to happen, right? There is the reverse. There's that famous, in the Lojong teachings, the famous Geshe Chekawa, who on his deathbed is determined because he's such a high bodhisattva that he's going to go to hell. He wants to. He actually decides, I am going to hell. It's very much like a Jesus on the cross thing. Like, I'm going to take all your sins upon me and send myself to hell so you don't have to go, like, is basically what he's saying. And so he's on his deathbed, and all his attendants are around him, and he's like moaning and groaning, like, oh, Master, it must be so horrible. Are you seeing hell? He goes, no. And he's like, no, I can only see angels, because what is the karma of that, right? Yeah, he went straight the other way. Okay, next contemplation. It's called Examine Your Expectations. Set your hopes on results, unwilling to make any effort. Sufferings shower down on those least able to bear them. Already in the embrace of death, you imagine yourself an immortal, and cry out when suffering comes to destroy you. You give up the highest kind of pleasure, the holy Dharma, infinite numbers of causes that bring you pleasure. Why is it you are attracted so much to being distracted by causes for pain, to busyness and the like? This is the last contemplation for today's class. And what he's talking about in this verse are three expectations that people generally live with. Uneducated. When I say uneducated, I mean uneducated in the Dharma, the stuff that we're practicing and learning right now. These are three presumptions, three things we take for granted or expect should happen or should be. The first one, say Gela, Sunme, Drebu, Dewa, Popa. This means all human beings, according to Master Shantideva, are living under the presupposition or expectation that something good is going to happen to them. That no matter what, something good is going to happen. And Master Shantideva says unreasonably so, because they have done nothing to deserve it. Like everyone is aspiring, right? Like, I hope I have a good life. I hope I get money. I hope I get good friends. I hope I get a nice partner. I hope that everything works out nice. I hope I'm going to have a good death. And yet they're not doing anything to actually, they're not gardening. They're not planting the right seeds for those fruits to happen, right? And he's saying, if you're expecting something to happen, make it happen. Plant the causes, right? But if you would really, really examine your life, what is it that you're doing that is so wonderful that you can expect those things that you think are naturally coming to you? So this is one of the everybody thinks they're a good person and that life it's all going to work out, and it's an unreasonable expectation, is what Master Shantideva is saying. If we're not doing anything special, if we're not planting the causes for it. The second one, say Klandra, Yunring, Sundu, Rewa. Klandra is like Fla, which we call each other all the time. It's like immortal or angel. Everyone in the back of their mind, whenever they hear about, like the way I'm talking about Poa or death or anything, in the back of their mind, everybody thinks, yeah, that's interesting, but that's not going to happen to me. Even though we all know that birth is the cause of death, that we are all suffering from a terminal case, right? Like we are all fatal. We are all going to go. For some reason, in the back of our minds, we're thinking, not me. At least not yet. Not me. Not yet. And that not yet actually feels like not ever. And it's just something that's really deeply entrenched, right? Because they're so deeply entrenched, I'm not going to die. Yeah, okay, I'm going to die, but not yet. And I'm going to die really well. Like, everything's going to be okay. Because we're so attached to those two things, we suffer at that moment. Like, if we weren't attached to those two things, we wouldn't suffer so badly at the moment of death. The last one, say Senchun, Dungnao, Mung. This means the older you get, the less able you are to put up with pain. It's interesting, right? The karma of aging is that we get more aches and pains. It's more and more uncomfortable to even sit or to walk or to breathe, right? Like that, just things become more suffering, and our tolerance becomes diminished for it. It's just a natural thing that happens. So what he's trying to describe is why dying is the cause of so much suffering. And these are the three things. So one In the back of your mind, you thought that you really were pretty good and that you weren't that bad. 2, in the back of your mind, you thought you were going to live longer. Longer than the point of death, right? 3, your natural ability to withstand pain as the years go by diminishes. And so they do say that if you die young, it's less painful than if you die old. It's that's just a Buddhist thing. But those are the 3 reasons why dying is the cause of so much suffering. So there's a homework question, and Master Shantideva brings us back to our priorities and our perception of what happiness is. Because remember, this is supposed to be about joyful effort. It's been a real downer, this last part of the class. Right?
Like, what are we studying?
And I'm sorry to say the end of this class is not going to be that much more uplifting, but don't worry, this is the first of the classes on the perfection of joyous effort. I mean, he really wants us to get clear on the fact that we can't be lazy, because what that means is that we're attracted to this cycle of suffering. And why are we attracted to this when this is the natural end result, which has to be repeated, rinse and repeat, right? if we don't do something about it. So he says, Master Shantideva says that the problem is that we push away the things that can truly bring us happiness, and we go after things that don't. And so he gives us a list of things that we have to watch out for, because these are the things that we mistakenly pursue, thinking they're going to bring us happiness when they don't. And then what we turn away from is things like making time for our meditation, making time for our study, and understanding stuff like what we're trying to, struggle with right now, and really, really perfecting the joy of effort that will get us everything that we want, right? So here are the 3 things that that we do, that we shouldn't do. So he says 1 is doing bad deeds to get what we want. And he gives the example of a diamond deal that he had to do the next day after this teaching, which was to, and it was to a friend who had attempted to suggest that he would, this is really interesting, his friend didn't want to pay the taxes on the diamonds. And Geshe-la was at this point, I think it was a fairly large diamond order too, and he's like, do I lose the deal if I don't? But then he decided, because he's teaching this also, and he lives, he walks the walk, is that he had to charge the tax. Like he couldn't, in good conscience, not charge the tax, even if it meant losing the deal, because it would be a form of lying. It would be a form of cheating the government, right? And that negative act, even though his friend might have thought he got something good, but getting something good was not going to come from the cheating the government of the taxes. And in fact, the greater negative result that would come to him later would be not worth that either, right? And it's interesting because just as I was preparing this last week, I got an offer to I have a place I rent out, and my tenant moved out, and I'm kind of betwixt and between, and I, for the very first time, listed on Airbnb. And I have this really, really great person in there right now. But in the negotiation, they wanted to know, well, first of all, they wanted a better rate, which was fair enough because they're staying for a fair chunk of time. And we're doing this all through the Airbnb website. We're talking to each other through the website. So all the emails are back and forth. And Airbnb is monitoring all this, right? And then they say on there, can we pay you directly? And I'm like, we have to go through the Airbnb. Well, we don't want to pay their fees. Can we make other arrangements? And I'm like, I thought about this, and I thought, because by this point I had actually met them and shown the place, and they knew how to get in touch with me. And quite frankly, they could have tried. They were kind of doing the same thing. You know, can we just pay you cash? We agree to the price, but we don't want to pay a middleman um, extra money. And so I had already decided that I was going to ask them how much more, because I couldn't see that they were being charged any more. But if they were, I wanted to know how much. And I was going to either, I was hoping they would agree to paying half that, like I would pay them back half that, or if it was really going to be a deal breaker, I would pay them the fee, because it couldn't be that much, right? But what I said was, we must adhere to Airbnb protocol, but call me and I will explain. And then actually in that very, in the struggle, do I help them? Do I do I do that? I'm not helping them by making a side deal. I'm not. And this particular service was phenomenal, in terms of connecting the two of us and providing me with someone to be in right away, and all of that stuff. And so I was prepared to let that one go if they weren't going to. And it all, they booked. I don't know what they never did answer my question. We're all good, but it was, there was that moment of moral, like, is it really that bad, right? And yeah, no, and I even said, like in my head, I'm like, I am teaching this stuff. There's no way I can take that off table deal, right? Like, there's just no way. So, anyways, that's the first one: doing bad deeds to get what you want. Second is say dunse.
Dunse.
Dunse is busyness. This is actually how I define lay low, because most of the people I know aren't sitting on their sofa in, perennial laziness. They're busy, 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 like booking meetings, booking coffee, booking, like, whatever, running from this to that. Oh, I can't work on that project, so I gotta go do this, and then they can't focus on that because they gotta go do that. And it's almost like a social ADD, where they're just like flitting from this to that. Actually, sorry, I'm jumping. This is the busyness, where it's the hustle and bustle, because that flitting is the third one. So instead of, it basically it's also having too much stimulation, too much things going on that is actually destructive to your practice. And yeah, and this is what Dunze is. This is the second um, thing that we grasp to, that we think, because we think that by being busy, by being social, by being, in a million places, multitasking, right? There is a whole book on how multitasking doesn't actually work, but how you're actually not multitasking. You're actually doing, your attention is toggling, and how you're actually not. You've got this false sense of doing more than you're actually doing, but you're actually doing less per. Yeah, it's interesting. So there's this keeping our mind too busy doesn't allow that stillness to happen that's required to do meditation, to do virtue, right? It's yeah. So that's the second one. Third one, say gupa.
Gupa.
Gupa is the tendency of our mind to skip from object to object. So that's the flitting around. That's the societal ADD, as I call it, where you want to do this, I want to learn that, no, I want to go do this, no, I have to do that. It's like this whole being pushed and pulled, and it's like a fly landing on different things, Geshe says. So that's Gupa. So those are the three tendencies. To think that any of these three would bring us happiness is the problem. Busyness in our mind. If we are in an overstimulating environment, or if we make our world too full of stimulus that is constantly distracting us, or doing bad deeds because we think that somehow we're going to benefit, those are what Master Shantideva calls the three lies of happiness. They look like happiness, but they're lying to you. And so he's saying, instead of listening to the three lies of happiness, Embrace what really brings you happiness, which is your practice. And that's what that last verse was really trying to get us to understand. Yeah. So I kind of whipped through that, but is there any questions? Is this class 3 or 4? This is class 4. Yeah, so we have one more class and then debate practice. So you look like you have a question.
No, I was just thinking. Well, I was just thinking about how we were talking about before. Well, you know how your wrongdoings flash before your eyes and all things that you regret and leading to you go insane.
The 4
Like
ways of dying.
The 4 ways of dying and stuff like that. And I was just thinking in one class we talked about, because it makes me think of my mom and stuff, but in one class we talked about how you want to jump into your next existence,
Right.
your next life, or in a good frame of mind. Is that kind of to do with this insane thing at the end? Like at the end, if you have it cleared, that's what all ties in, right?
It does all tie in. It does all tie in. And because the hallucinations, it's interesting. If you read the yogic scriptures, there's actually some natural hallucinations that are pretty predictable.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, we teach it in one of the THYs. I think it's Lady Niguma's, I think it's 6, where at the end, while we're in Shavasana, we talk you through a guided meditation. Yeah, it is. It's THY 6. It's Lady Niguma's. I was just double checking my internal Rolodex because I thought I was about to tell you a secret teaching that I'm not allowed to tell you yet. However, this part is taught in THY 6. I know this, and we can even check the sheets there. And I reference that because Lady Niguma's THY 6 Shavasana sequencing is a very, very beautiful dissolution practice. And there are, in the high teaching, in the secret teachings, there is a very common practice of contemplating what we call dissolution.
Mm-hmm.
And because basically at the time of death, that's what's happening. Your whole world, physically and mentally, is imploding.
Right.
And your earth element, like the way that meditation goes, like you're in Shavasana, and this is actually a beautiful thing to do in any Shavasana, but you're there and you feel the weight of your body sinking into the mat. And you actually, and this is based on the elements of your body, so you tap into your earth element, your solidity, your firmness, because that's going to go. And when that goes, and we kind of get a feeling of it as we're falling asleep, I find this happens, I don't actually get to nap anymore, but I really do remember a summer nap at a friend's cottage in Ontario or something where I had this feeling. It was like the sun was there. You know how you nap with no blankets on? Mm-hmm. You're fully dressed. And I was on the bed and I felt like I was going to fall off the bed. But that sinking feeling, but I couldn't move. It's not so much the sinking feeling, but the not being able to move. That's the loss of your earth element. Okay? So in this meditation, you feel the earth element, and then you feel it dissolve, and you see a hallucination, a visualization of a mirage. Like when heat comes off of a hot road, it kind of the air goes like that. That's the visual that you're supposed to conjure up, because they say that is one of the visuals that happens, at the dissolution. And then you dissolve the earth element into water. So then you tap into everything that's fluid in your body, and then you feel that go. And as you lose the water element, you see smoke. And then you tap into your fire element, the heat in your body, and that goes. And so in the real dissolution process, your body would then be getting cold, right? And you see fireflies. And then you tap into the element of wind. And you feel your breath, but also your prana, your chi. And you then see a flickering candle coming to a still point. And then you're supposed to just see it disappear. So those are the 4 preliminary steps of actually what will happen, as the elements of our bodies, our physical bodies, start to disintegrate and dissolve. And those are the first four visualizations, which will be hallucinations because they will appear very real. And it's not like you see a movie screen with a mirage, it's like your whole visual field becomes that. And then there's a few more after that. But that's something that, as a practicing yogi, as a practicing Buddhist, you can practice, and it's highly recommended that you practice that in a state of shavasana so that you'll recognize it. And then it's not the roar of hell. It's not the, you know what I mean? Like it's then
Right.
you've got you've got a sense of recognition about it. And actually, they do say, because we've done this many times, we just didn't know what we were doing. We've had a chance to see DPE every time we've died, because at a point your side channels do collapse. But normally we just pass out. Normally we just, or we go to this horrible hallucinating place and we're so scared that we don't actually smoothly coast in and out of the direct perception of emptiness. So dying alone does not get you, like you actually pass through that moment, but we miss it. You know what I mean? So if we're trained, a trained yogi can actually ride that wind and achieve that moment then. But again, just like Poa, you can't expect to do that if you haven't prepared and if you haven't put the causes into place, right? So, but that's just in terms of the hallucinations. Normally, without even that type of training, which is really basic training, then what will take over is just the normal process. And it can be, they say for the most part, for a normal samsaric being, it's pretty frightening. And it's pretty, so the best thing you can do for someone who is passing is to try to help them stay calm. It really is about being grateful and happy and no regrets. That's the important thing. Because if they have no regrets, then there isn't anything to ripen as fear, right? So, again, easier said than done, but, and some people are just better at this kind of stuff. John, who teaches with me, his mother passed, and from what I understand, her past, like she was the Bodhisattva looking out for everyone else, and talk about someone who was already very clear. But she was a yogi too in all her life. So interesting how those seeds, right, do ripen. And I'm not saying not everybody who does yoga is going to know how to do that, and I'm not saying she knew how to do that, but there is something to be said about the seeds that you've planted with that sort of training that must ripen as more. Lama Kimberly talked about how her childbirth was way easier because she was experienced at pranayam, and she's a very accomplished yogi herself. So it's and I also think that's probably the. Lama Marut foresaw that meditation would be the new yoga. He predicted that like 5 years ago. And I mean, in the papers, it's all about mindfulness training and loving kindness and all of this. And sure, for the benefits, the logical sort of medically proven benefits of relaxation and low blood pressure and all of that. But obviously, there is more to it, and there is a hunger for more serenity and more sense of lack of chaos, because it's life is chaotic and we make it more so. And they say there's nothing as chaotic as a normal samsaric death. So, Master Shantideva, again, this is not the Abhidharmakosha. This is not the death in the realms of existence. But this is how, especially in Lam Rim too, we have to get really clear on death. And so that we're motivated. And that's the other thing. It's not just effort, it's joyous effort. So for that, we need big motivation. And we need to be able to really fire it up, But I think it's a real, I don't know, it's one of those things that at first it might be a fake it till you make it. But you all know, like when you do something and it's just a thrill to have done it, it's so like teaching, like it's so rewarding, and it's like what effort, you know? I know John's talked about this in his other class because we were both discussing it, and we're in a choir. We're in a United Church choir on Sundays, and seriously, the reason we're there is because the choir master is just an incredible embodiment of joyous effort. I mean, that man is teaching from like with a student from 9 in the morning till 9 at night, and then he, with us at choir, we practice it from 7 to 9 at a church, and then he's there from 8 in the morning on Sunday to set all the mics and everything, and we rehearse at 8:30, and then we're in service at 10, and every week he has to come up with a new program, and but the man is just a walking ball of joy. It's not effort in the sense of obligation. Is it hard work? Yeah, he's one of the hardest working music teachers I know, and I know a few music teachers, but it's just this incredible joy. And actually, you know what underlies joy is love. Yeah, he loves what he does. He loves all of us, and he loves what the music brings to everyone. It's really the whole bhakti thing, and when you see it and feel it, and that's the thing with joy, right? And you know this far with your laughter yoga, like it's infectious. Just like being down and grumpy is infectious, but what better? Like if they're both infectious, then let's just infect the world with joy, right? Because it's just so much more useful in the long run and in the short run too. That's all. Any other questions?
That was good, thank you.
Okay, we're actually going to finish before 9.
That was awesome.
Let's dedicate.
Sashi Puki Jukshin Netotram Rirabling Shin Yande Gyempadi Sange Shingdu Mikte Uwagi Drokun Namdak Shingla Chupashog Idam Gururatnam Dalakam Niratayami Gewakti Gelokun Sunam Yashe Sotsokshi Sunam Yashe Lejunwe Dampakuni Topasho.
Thank you.
Yay! Yay!
There's actually one vocal warm-up where you do the scale singing the word joy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It sounds so good.
Everybody's welcome. If you love to sing, come.
Oh, it sounds really good, yeah. It's in North Van, right?
It is Lonsdale.
Oh, wow. Sunday morning?
Sunday morning. So the actual service starts at 10.
No.
Yes. Just, I think shortly after, or 10:30? No, shortly after 10. And it's usually done by 11:30.
I teach on Sundays, but I love like kirtans and the bhakti practices.
We're just talking about that a little bit today. We're going to start that up again here. We used to do them more regularly, and then we kind of lost momentum, and then we were doing them just as special event fundraisers. But I think there's going to be one soon.
Really?
Well, we've asked Lama Yvonne and Lama Roger to come do a teaching here.
Yeah, when are they coming
I
back?
think March 21st is the day. I think it's penciled in, and it'll be like a little bit of a talk. We're hoping that they'll share some of their experiences with us, and an opportunity for a bit of Q&A, and then just generally a little party, a little potluck celebration, music thing.
Really good. I think Swamiji's in town that.
Oh, that on that weekend?
Yeah, it's just around that time, like March. That would be. I would.